This video will be very strange. I know myself to be what Hegel calls the negative, and I know that God is being, and that apart from God, there is nothing. So we are living within God. But like I said in previous videos, being without the consciousness of itself is not really God. It's God becomes God when he enters into a cognitive process of self-cognition. And I know that whatever I say against God will be held against me in a court of divine law and divine retribution. But I also know enough about God to know that I must tell the truth. I must be honest with myself and with God, because he, as a transcendental principle, he knows everything about me. So I cannot pretend that I cannot lie. I mean, I can lie, but I must nonetheless, I am forced to express the truth. So that's kind of ironic, because the negative is forced to speak the truth. So the negative is negative, but nonetheless, he in the process of its own becoming, he's honest. So that's kind of weird. And I said in a previous video that I perfectly know that I will be in a position where I will lose the will to laugh, the will to live, the will to exist, and that it will be a terrible situation for me. But I also know that I must be true to myself, and I must find the strength to be Nietzschean in a way, to be faithful to Nietzsche, which is my best friend, and to find the strength to laugh while I can, and to laugh about myself. And I was reading an article about a French article about the educational system in Singapore. And the French writer of the article, I don't know if he's a journalist or an academic, a scholar, I don't know. He was praising the school system of Singapore while blaming, as a mirror, the school system in France. And I know vaguely that the reason why the school system and the results of the Singaporean children are so excellent and so great is partly because biologically the Singaporean are a Northeast Asian people, and they are very intelligent, and that they have a very high IQ in this subject, that there are on average inequalities between the various ethnic groups in the bell curve of IQ, is one of the main reasons which explains the success of Asian, Northeast Asian kids in school. And I realized, because I must be honest, that the entire system in Western culture is made with the sole purpose of degrading European children. That's a fact. I cannot deny that it is the truth, because God conspires against himself, because there is no one else to conspire against. And God knows that by degrading the educational system, it will create a dialectical reaction against the system, and that people will be tempted to educate their kids at home, or to go into private school to be granted and to have a different kind of knowledge, a more serious type of knowledge, and that intelligent and courageous writers will write books to denounce the degradation of the educational system, and that people will be tempted to gather knowledge and to learn new information on the internet, and it is God who made the internet possible. So God, as a transcendental principle, he understands dialectics, and he understands that the negation of something dialectically produces its own negation, so that the will to bring about the downfall and the dumbing down of school children in the West will dialectically bring about the will to acquire true knowledge, and this is what God wants. He wants to know himself, and he wants man to acquire a knowledge of God through his own effort. So I understand that. And the people who praise the Northeast Asian educational system, they are schizophrenic, but God himself is a schizophrenic being, because God is a dialectical being, and dialectics is philosophical schizophrenia. So they are in a schizophrenic position, because on the one hand, they would like the educational system to be improved, but if you told them that in order to improve the educational system, you would have to implement eugenic measures because intelligence is partly determined by genetics, they would find this horrifying, and they would say, oh, you're a far-right extremist. So they want the cure without the cure. So they are in a conflicting state of mind, and they mention a part of the problem, an aspect of the problem, but they are not willing to expose the totality of the problem, which is the entire system of economic, cultural, political, financial life in the West. They are not willing to go to the logical end. And I don't blame them, but I just explain. And when I understood this, I realized that God, as a transcendental principle, is an absolute genius, and that he conspires against himself, because there is no one else to conspire against, because God is the only reality, and he enjoys inflicting torment upon himself. So there is in the psyche, in the depth of the divine psyche, there is an enjoyment of a sadomasochistic psychological aspect. And I know that when I say this about God, when I put the blame on God, and that I accuse God of being a sadomasochistic psychopath who enjoys pain and degradation and self-humiliation, God will project this back at me and say, you are projecting your own mind as an empirical individual onto me, and the one you're pointing the finger at is actually you. And that's very comical. And I am in a position where I cannot help but admire the genius of God, and I love God infinitely. The more I understand God, the more I love him, and I know that he will torment me, because in my own psyche I understand that my problem as an empirical individual is my sense of masculinity. I want to feel like a man. I want to feel manly. And in relation to God, my empirical self is womanish, because I am a natural being, and the realm of nature is the realm of the feminine. And God is a pure mind. So in relation to God, I am a woman, like every natural creature. But a woman enjoys being played with by a manly principle. That's a very profound aspect of the female psyche. They enjoy being played with by a higher principle. And I don't put the blame on women, because I myself, in relation to God, I am a woman as a natural being. But my mental self wants to feel like a man. And I understand that the principle of masculinity is to assert independence and self-sovereignty and strength, independently of the sensuous presentation, the experiences of the senses. So the real man, the way I envision it, is the man who can endure pain without complaining, and he can assert his manhood in the infliction of pain, and say, yes, you might inflict pain upon my body, but I can maintain my self-identity, and I can remain free in suffering. And this is the principle of manhood. And my desire as an individual is to feel like a man, and God knows it. So God will um, God will God will give me what I want, and first I will hate it, but in the end I will say, well, I can't deny that's what I wanted, and God gave me what I wanted, so I will love God for that. And uh, that's a nice trick. And when you understand the psychological depth and the you cannot help but feel an infinite love for this entity that we call God, because it is so brilliant that I'm left speechless. This is, and I know that I will not be in a position to laugh or to enjoy or to love. I know that it's part of the process, but as long as I can, I will admire God, because it is so brilliant. This principle that we call God, it's infinite intelligence, infinite love. It's I'm in love with God, and I will be in a position where I will hate God, and this is what people call the devil. But as of now, I love God infinitely, and I would like you. I know that for now no one will watch this video because this is crazy schizophrenic delirium. But when the time comes, I want people to listen to the songs by Lady Gaga, Bad Romance, and by Rihanna, S&M. And this expresses aspects of God, because modern pop culture is the expression of absolute spirit to itself. So God is partly a sadomasochistic entity. It's not only that, but it's partly that. And God wants partly a bad romance with himself. He wants to love his own twisted aspects. And these are my own ideas, in the sense that I said that modern pop culture expresses the truth about absolute spirit, and I cannot say that some aspects of pop culture do express and some don't. The whole of modern pop culture is a manifestation of absolute spirit. So it is a revelation of God to himself, and people enjoy these songs, and that's why in the end everyone loves God, because God is the whole of being, and being loves itself. And yeah.